All right, welcome everyone to Spitball and Sports. It's kind of the interview edition because our show normally I'm with Scott Taggart on from 6 p.m. on Friday, as you guys know, and but sometimes our guests can't make it then, and I don't want to lose great interviews. And this guy here has been on our show before. I think it was when it was called something else, and I don't think Scott was with me yet. But anyways, it's a 30. He's been in it forever, 30 years of experience, right? Um, Terrestrial radio, now satellite radio, SiriusXM, NFL, NHL. And the other good thing about it is he's my friend and somebody that I graduated from the same high school with. Hey, Zig.
JR, what's going on, baby?
Nothing. Like I was telling you, just hot. Beating the heat here in Western New York.
Yeah, same here, just outside New York City. We are almost on the delay of you guys. So whatever you have now, I'm sure we'll get in a day or two.
Yeah, no doubt. And thanks for being with me. The thing I
Sure.
really wanted to talk. Actually, let me ask you something.
Sure.
Are you doing a show with Brad Hopkins?
This past weekend I did, yeah. We were on 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Normally, Brad works with Bill Lekkus, and I'm with Alex Marvez, but it was a Memorial Day edition. We had a fun with that. Had a lot of different topics going on, too. It's like, in fact, we brought up who's the guy from your most hated team that you respect the most?
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had some real good names come up, you know?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There's so many. I guess if I go back, you
Well, you're
know,
a Bears guy, so you probably hate the Packers, but you got to like what, Rodgers or Favre?
I like Rodgers. I really do. I
Yeah.
didn't realize I liked him until he started talking. I didn't. He's not bad. Like I guess it was the Pat McAfee show. I'd see him, and it's like, oh, this guy's all right.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to do that with him. The other guy is real fast is Marchand. I
Yes.
end up liking him, and I didn't want to, but
Does a ton for charity too. So
does he really? You know what
yes.
he did? He said something, and then I'll get off of this. That was the best thing, and he said it in the beginning. It was when the Leafs were playing the Bruins, and he said the reason why we're in the playoffs and we're always so competitive, winning Stanley Cups, whatever, is because we take less to win. And it
Yeah.
was a direct shot at the Maple Leafs. And he's right though; those guys are taking less.
Yeah, and I mean, now it'll be interesting to see if ultimately Bergeron retires. Marchand took less, but gosh, now you got McAvoy and of course Pasternak making the big bucks there. Although Jr. in theory, if the cap continues to go up, those numbers now may look less if you think about it over the coming few years.
Yeah, and the cap should go up. Well, I want to ask you this, and this is probably me being selfish, but I need to get your take on the Maple Leafs because
Sure.
that was crazy stuff. Dubas, what he does on Monday, and even more crazy was Shanahan on Friday. I've never heard anything like that. That kind of timeline. Tell me what you think about what you saw there.
When I first heard Dubas talking, I thought that maybe he was burnt. Like he really needed an absolute break from his job. And when he cited that the family stresses were on it, JR, that I thought, all right, maybe he just needs to step down. But you know what? If you're the Leafs, you can't afford that because you still have to have somebody in there making all the decisions. And then when all the nuances came out, they had the discussions, and then Dubas sends Shanahan an email. I want the job. I think that kind of became like a little soap opera-ish, to be perfectly honest with you. So I think in the end, that's why the Maple Leafs ultimately made the move that they did. And, now it'll be interesting to see. Dubas, he said that it was either Toronto or nothing else. So does he look like a liar then if, say, he gets the Pittsburgh job?
Right.
To me, that looks really awkward. But I'll tell you, and I saw your tweets with Twitter. Gosh, I don't know if any of those guys, maybe Chiarelli, because he's got a cup with him from his time in Boston, would that actually be an upgrade? Brad Trivliving, I've actually met him, great guy, but is he an upgrade? Mark Bergevin, Is he an upgrade? I don't think so, So unless Shanahan wants to assume that duty, which I don't think he does, they're in kind of a quandary right now in terms of that Leafs GM spot.
Yeah, they really are. So many big decisions of who's staying and who's going because they can't keep doing this over and over. Let's talk about teams that win. The Leafs don't. The Heat. The Heat, not the Heat. No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Well,
all right. You know what? Real
way
quick.
To go, JR.
No,
throw some napalm on me here.
I swear I was going to say the Panthers, but all right. Real quick. Does it matter how you lose? Like, is there big changes coming to the Celtics or no?
Well, first of all, let's give Miami full marks. I mean, for what they did. They lost 3 games in a row. Everybody counted them out in game 7, but I'm like, And then when the Celtics got the early lead, it looked good. But then when Tatum rolled the ankle, it became problematic. I think what happened, they all tried to play hero ball after that. Miami is a team. They stay poised. They have Jimmy Butler and a bunch of other guys, but they play well in a very well-coached system. I happen to be an Eric Spoelstra fan, and people threw Mazzulla under the bus. At one time, Eric Spoelstra was Joe Mazzulla. He came in, he wasn't Pat Riley or Red Auerbach off the hop here. So, and for what Mazzulla had to do with all year, basically thrust into it just before the start of the season after they suspended Ime Udoka. Yeah. The fact I think they kind of got that far under those circumstances, even they made the finals before, was kind of interesting. I think in the end they keep Brown, but it wouldn't shock me if they try to look at trade offers because he would become an unrestricted free agent after next season. And for the Heat, God love him. Again, Jimmy Butler and a bunch of guys who know their roles. Was it 6, 7 undrafted guys, John, that they play well in a system? And Pat Riley loves to stick it to the Celtics anytime he can. So full marks to them.
Denver, do they have a chance against Denver?
I think they do, but I think in the end, because now you've worn yourself out for 7 games. Now you got to go to the altitude, which I think is going to be kind of tough. But boy, you'd be a fool not to sell them short. So, but I think in the end, Jokic, I think this is Denver's time to show that, hey, we actually have a basketball team here. And all due respect to Dan Issel, David Thompson, and all those other guys, this is the best Nuggets team I think they've ever had. So,
all right, and I'm with Zig Fracassi from SiriusXM, NFL, NHL, all that. He does it all. You do it all, man. You're one of the best.
I mop the floors too. So,
anyway, I wanted to talk about the Panthers because I can't put it in Maple Leaf terms because I was going to say to you, well, the Maple Leafs had that little time off and then lost game 1, but the Leafs are a whole nother story. They're just weird. Does that matter, you think, now coming up such a long off, time off before they meet Vegas on Saturday?
Oh, I think it's huge. I mean, I think last time the Bruins made the finals, I think they were off for like 9-10 days. And I mean, ultimately they wound up getting to a game 7 and lost, but I think you can't regain that mojo real quick. You could simulate and practice and try to do all the things you can in terms of simulating game conditions, Johnny. But I think in the end, it hurts them, where I think Vegas now, if you look at it, they'll have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days off, and then they play a home game. So that might be more, I guess, perfect. 4 days would seem to be an ideal break as opposed to, the 9 or 10 Florida's been on. So that's where I think Vegas plus the home ice would have the advantage there.
Now, Florida has won 11 out of 12. They started at the 3-1 thing with Boston, went through the Leafs in 5, go through Carolina in 4. And everyone, I think Boston was 40 points ahead. The Leafs and Carolina, 20 points ahead of them in the regular season.
Yep.
Do you see anything that tells you that it will slow down? Or, I mean, I don't. I'm having a hard time even picking them to lose.
Again, though, what I just said, I think regaining that mojo, right. If they somehow do it in game 1, then I'll say, hey, they're fine. They're okay. But it wouldn't shock me if Vegas got the opener because they're at home. and that. So it's going to be interesting to see, Johnny, how long it's going to take for them to regain the mojo. I keep going back to that saying because you could simulate game conditions and everything all you want, but lost momentum would be a concern. So I'm real curious how Paul Maurice has handled this all throughout the week. And, is Kachuk, is he on him like, hey, guys, we've had this nice break, but now we got to go out and prove this once again. So, game one, I think, is going to be a real telltale story in terms of if they'll be able to regain the advantage that they had through the first 3 rounds.
Now, for me, I'm sitting here watching, and I keep on waiting, and I was waiting through the Leaf series, Bobrovsky to just come back to earth. He doesn't give up more than 2 goals.
Hasn't happened.
I know. I don't know what to think. Like, we're all. Aren't you waiting, or am I crazy? I'm just waiting for one to sneak in, and then okay, here we go. But nothing yet.
No, and maybe it's that proverbial second chance, if you will, because in the past he's looked great at instances, and then there were times that they're paying him $10 million a year. They couldn't buy that contract out, but I think in the end, I think that was just a proverbial wake-up call. And there was the game 6, he didn't look all that good against Boston, but when it truly mattered, game 5, the Marchand breakaway, game 7 down the stretch, and then throughout those next 2 series, he was arguably their best player. So I just think he's dialed in right now, and I think he's got a mission to carry this team out, and so I don't see it happening. I mean, Vegas has got firepower, but unlike those other 3 teams, I'm not sure they have that much as opposed to the teams they've already beaten.
Now, Vegas on the other side, Jack Eichel, being here, I'm in Buffalo, so of course I hear it all about him. Yeah. And I wanted your thoughts on Eichel, because when I'm watching him, when he touches the puck, he almost, he's like, he looks sometimes like Matthews or like even McDavid. He looks unstoppable. What do you think of him, and what are your thoughts on him?
Well, let's see. It's amazing. McDavid's had all the accolades, all the honors, but now Eichel's got one up on him in terms of getting to a Stanley Cup final before Connor did. So for that, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's in Vegas. They were the ones who said, hey, go ahead and have that surgery that the Sabres didn't want him to have. And it turned out to be a good deal for Buffalo. Krebs has been a nice player for them. Alex Tuch, who was a Syracuse guy, grew up following the Sabres, so it's a homecoming for him. So from that instance, JR, the trade worked out very well. And he's in a situation there, in Vegas, playing with guys like Stone and Barbashev. He doesn't have to carry the team, unlike what Connor's done in Edmonton. So I think if you look at it from is he a true superstar? I'd probably say no, but I think he's a very good player, maybe a little overdrafted when it turns out in the final analysis, but he's a very good player who can blend in on a good to very good team. So I think it's been a perfect match. In fact, he didn't even have a goal, I don't think, in that Western Conference final, but he was all over the ice, setting up plays, factoring in on certain things. So I thought all in all, for his first playoff, he's looked very, very good.
Yeah, and both, I wanted to ask you about the two. What's going to be interesting is both fourth lines, because the Vegas fourth line has been really good. I know, and we know how good Florida's been. I kind of, haven't seen them in a while. That clash should be very good.
Yeah, I would say so. William Carrier, he had the goal last night for Dallas to help them, ex-Sabre, by the way. And, Florida, they've got, what is it? Stahl's the fourth line there, right?
Yeah.
So when you've got the number 1 overall pick of a draft, maybe the greatest draft of all time in 2003, as a fourth line center, what's that tell you? Right. And he's got cup experience too. So yeah, that's going to definitely be intriguing.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. Are you under the same? I think you are. You think Florida wins the series, wins the Stanley Cup this year?
Yeah, you know why? Probably because it's one of those things where if they go on to win, you could say, well, at least the team I root for got beat by the
Oh,
eventual Stanley Cup champion.
yeah.
And you fit the same criteria, too. So I'm hoping they do. But also, though, JR, I'm going to go wishy-washy. Part of me would almost like to see Vegas because of Cassidy, who I
Yes.
thought did a terrific job in Boston, but it was clear talking to people I know up there who are in the know that his message got lost.
Mm.
So, hindsight being 2020, the Bruins don't win 65 games and have that epic season like they did because I don't see Bruce Cassidy opening up the offensive capabilities of the defense like Jim Montgomery did. It's that simple. And Montgomery was a breath of fresh air, although he got outcoached and outthought himself in that Florida series. So Cassidy coming in, by the way, taking over for Peter DeBoer, an accomplished coach himself, who apparently either lost the locker room, Johnny, or was blamed for Vegas losing over 500 man games last year. So he goes in. You think about that. Did they check out on this guy? And then all of a sudden, Cassidy's message proves to be a panacea. So long answer there. I'm probably leaning towards Florida, although, again, if Cassidy got the cup, I wouldn't be disappointed.
Yeah. You know what? I kind of am wishy-washy too. I'm honestly, I could see it go either way, and then which is going to make for a great Stanley Cup, I hope, final. I mean, I do know it's tough for some people, and I hope NHL fans don't do this just because they're not traditional, because it's going to be good.
Well, and also too, and to that point, yeah, because it's Miami against Vegas. Who'd have thought that 25 years ago? And also too, Johnny, let's not forget this Vegas team was set up like no other expansion team. Now, when I first saw their expansion draft a few years ago, I'm like, hell, this team could almost compete for the playoffs right away. So they were set up well there. And then, they were able to make a lot of side deals. They ultimately got Marc-Andre Fleury and, Shea Theodore. They pickpocketed Anaheim in that trade. So they were given advantages, let's call it that way, of teams unlike you and I remember, like when Washington and the Islanders and all them, they were trying to build up San Jose in the early 90s, how painful that was. So the NHL threw Vegas, quite a bit of favor there in setting them up. But having said that, the run that they've been on, it's rather remarkable. So, and then with Florida again, first time in 27 years they're in a final. Great trade, by the way, Tkachuk, because Huberdeau hasn't found himself in Calgary.
Yeah, unbelievable. I got to ask you something real quick, and I want to ask about the NFL.
Sure.
There was some coaching, I think, changes today. Nashville fire their head coach, or is that just a rumor? Did you hear anything?
Hines is out.
He's out.
And Brunette, who played for them, who, by the way, did an unbelievable job after Quenneville resigned amid that fiasco involving Chicago and that young man that was allegedly abused there. And and he was an assistant with New Jersey this past year, Andrew Brunette. So he's in, and your guy, Carberry, who was originally in the Caps organization, he takes over for Peter Laviolette in D.C., which made a lot of sense because he already knew the system.
And the Leafs sit there, man, and Sheldon Keefe is dangling in the wind because I'm going to assume he won't be the head coach. It's hard to. I don't know. I had thought maybe if I don't know
unless Shanahan says to the new GM, you got to keep Keefe as the coach.
Oh Jesus, yeah, they got it. Stan Bowman, he's still suspended, or is he? Yeah, he is, right?
Yeah, him and Quenneville, I think, would both have to go through Gary Bettman for permission if they wanted to try to get back into the league. That's my understanding. I know it's Quenneville, maybe Bowman too. I'm not sure, but
yeah, terrible situation. All right, I'm with Zig Fracassi from SiriusXM. Been there forever, right? All the satellite.
20 years, bro.
20 years, yeah. And God, I can still WGR here. Right?
NSA.
No, WNSA.
1077. Right? Yep.
Yes. Why do I did that last time? That's right, WNSA.
That's fine.
NFL. I got to ask you about a little bit of NFL. DeAndre Hopkins.
Yep.
He listed like Buffalo, Kansas City, Chargers, Ravens, right, and the Eagles. I think.
Right. On the podcast recently, yeah.
Who do you think? Like, who's the front runners? I guess. And is there any surprise team?
What I keep hearing is it's the Bills and the Chiefs are like neck and neck for him. But again, JR, it's going to depend on, first of all, I think it's going to be on money. You know, at this point, you're looking at a guy who is 31 years old, still productive, but has only played essentially half of the last 2 years because of suspension and injuries. How does he fit? You know, is he going to really expect to get $25 million a year? I doubt it. If he wants to go to Buffalo or Kansas City, you know he's got to take less there.
Right.
You know, Baltimore seems like they're pretty set with their receivers. The Chargers are loaded. I know he also mentioned Philadelphia. I would see a team like New Orleans being a possible dark horse. You got a new quarterback there in Carr. You're playing in Dome for half of the year. So NFC South, you're playing in Dome in Atlanta. You're playing in warm weather in Tampa. You're playing probably decent weather in Charlotte. So if he wanted to go there, and the fact that Michael Thomas still remains a bit of a question mark with his injuries, and, you know, maybe get a nice target for Olave, that's the team I've been kind of lobbying for him, is the New Orleans Saints. But again, I think it's going to come down to money and what he truly wants at this point. But I think he needs to be realistic. Again, he is north of 30 and has only played half of the last 2 years.
Jimmy Garoppolo, that news comes out about him signing, you know, whatever, you know.
It was a waiver in effect.
Waiver, yeah. And he had surgery, right? Was that what he...
Which was also newsworthy too, JR.
Yeah.
Nobody knew that, but had the surgery after, you know, the Raiders did the exam. And at this point, basically now they're covered in case he never plays for them.
Jeez.
But the idea is that he seems to be coming along. So hopefully he'll be ready for the opener. And, you know, that'll be a decent enough addition for the Raiders. It seems like they're trying to become Patriots West with all the personnel that they've brought in over there.
Yeah, and Devontae Adams isn't happy. Even though he came back and said, I am happy.
Yeah.
He don't seem happy.
No, well, I mean, you know, his one of his best friends, you know, Carr left that organization, which is kind of interesting because now Josh McDaniels has forced out yet another quarterback. Remember, he did the same with your Bears, with Cutler's, or with Denver, I should say, with Jay Cutler, who once played for the Bears, but he did the same thing in Denver. That's my point. But again, it's going to be interesting to see. And, you know, Devontae, he does say his mind. You got to like that about him. And the guy does produce. So it'll be interesting to see how now he and Garoppolo, or whoever it is with the Raiders, and I don't think it's going to be Brady unless, you know, player owner. I don't see that scenario. In fact, the owners would have to sign off on that, and I'm not sure that they would.
Who is it right now? Who's the backup? I don't even know the Garoppolo.
I think it's Brian Hoyer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Another Patriot, so.
Yeah. Steve Grogan wasn't available.
Yeah. The next thing I got to ask you now, this comes down to some things that I shook my head. Thursday night flexing of games.
Yeah.
You tell me, how's that going to work? It seems like it would be bad for a fan who bought a ticket, I think. But tell me more about Thursday night flexes.
Well, again, from what I know about it, Johnny, is that it would be weeks 13 through 17, and it would be 28 days notice. So that's almost a month. So if, say, you've got whoever's on the schedule, if both teams are, I don't know, like 4-8, 5-7, and if you're going to flex a team, you know, a game that features records of 7-5 and 8-4, you better darn well hope those teams don't go into a fade and have a worse record. So I think that's something that they're trying to do. I think it's a little bit of a slippery slope, if you ask me. So I don't see any dramatic change there. And I'm still going to be curious how they ultimately flex games to Monday night, too, because we got that option there as well. So, I don't like John Mara. Of course, I'm here in New York City area. He was vehemently against it, but in the end, I think it's a new brand of owners here, JR, that have the control over the league, and all they see is dollar signs with a potential move of games to Thursday night.
Yeah, because I think like only 8 teams voted against it, which made it just enough.
Majority, yep.
Yeah, to pass that. The next rule is the kickoff rule, which essentially is taking kickoffs away, where you can fair catch to the 25. How do you feel about taking fair catches, taking the kickoff away? And is it the cause of a lot of concussions in your mind, or research, or things you've heard?
Yeah, that's why they're obviously they're doing that. And we see it already in college.
Yeah.
So that rule's already in, and I think they were just trying to take away like these bloop kickoffs and teams trying to get around it there. So it's it seems like they're trying to keep it in, yet they're trying to get rid of it. So I'm a little bit flummoxed onto the whole thing. I mean, I know the last couple of years they changed the rule where now the gunners don't take off until the ball's actually kicked off. So I hate to see the kickoff rule because you never see a Devin Hester or White Shoes Johnson.
Yeah.
It's a different era now, but I'm sure special teams coordinators, JR, will find some loophole or way to get around that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just I don't know. I was going back and forth, so I couldn't wait to hear what you thought. I was thinking about it. I know concussions have to be taken seriously. All that has to be, has to be. I know, because you see what has happened to these guys. But then you think like what you just said: no more Devin Hesters, no more Eric Metcalfs, no more anything.
Right.
It's tough. Tough. People are going to lose their jobs. And what about I got to ask you this, and I've said this, and I'm probably talking, from Niagara Falls, New York, not really knowing what I'm saying. Does the NFLPA ever have any say, like in this stuff, like the flexing a game? Like, I don't know. It just feels like they're always quiet.
They do. I mean, obviously, it's supposed to be a partnership. And I think they, have, expressed concerns about whatever issues have come up the last few years. But I think in the end, JR, you can have a voice, and I'm sure there's some considerations to it. But I think in the end, they essentially, it's a spinoff of the players, and the players work for the owners, and ultimately the NFL seems like they get their way in whatever, they ultimately decide whatever they think is best for the game.
All right, Zig, I'm going to let you go. I've kept you longer than I promised.
No, anytime, brother.
I appreciate you being here with me. Now, where can I hear you, or where can we hear you? What's the days and all that?
Basically, the best thing I could tell you is Saturdays and Sundays, 2 to 6 Eastern time on Channel 88 and the SXM app, although we may be getting into some 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Shows over the next few months while the NFL is on hiatus. I also contribute to NHL radio. That's generally with Mick Kern, Wednesdays, 12:20 Eastern, Channel 91 and the SXM app. And then top of the hour sports updates on the platform of our channels, Wednesdays through Fridays, 1 to 7 Eastern. And then with the legendary Christopher Mad Dog Russo during his show, 3:30 to 6:30 on Channel 82 and the SXM app. So like you said, JR, I'm all over. I'll probably be mopping the floors during the updates too. So.
Yeah, hardest working guy in this forever, for 30 years. All right, Zig, I'll let you go, man. And I appreciate you being with me and stuff. And I'll be reaching out again. It's just,
anytime, brother.
All right, man. Take care. Have a good, I hope you had a good Memorial Day weekend.
I did. Yeah, thank you. And of course, we never forget the men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice to help us out and keep our freedoms. So always eternally grateful to them. And then obviously the young men and women that serve or have served as well in the armed forces.
All right, Zig, thanks for ending it that way. I'll be talking to you soon again, and I appreciate it.
Anytime, brother. Thanks, Jared. Right.
Take care. And that was Zig Fracassi from, you heard it, SiriusXM, NFL, NHL. He's doing stuff with Mad Dog Russo, and boy, I'm happy to be a friend of his, and been a long time friend when I think back to it, here in Niagara Falls, New York, where Zig also grew up and went to the same high school as me. So, all right. Why don't I remind everybody right now that we are always on Friday. Friday, we're live at 6 p.m. Eastern. Scott Taggart will be with me. Robin, of course, is always chiming in on anything to do with the world of sports. We just kind of have a good time on Friday at 6 p.m. So what I want to remind everyone is that coming up in the next little bit, you're going to have the Stanley Cup Finals starting, the NBA Finals starting. You know, don't worry about the teams that are in it because it is tough. I mean, I understand. We were just talking about it with Zig. You got Vegas, you've got obviously Miami, even Denver and Miami in the finals. Just enjoy it for what it's worth because you know, it would be a lot easier to watch it be the Rangers against the Blackhawks, of course, or I guess you could, if we just saw the Celtics and Lakers, that would have been incredible. But just enjoy it for what it's worth, I guess is what I'm saying. Because I've heard a lot of fans talking about how they just won't watch. And I think you're going to miss out on a lot of good stuff. The NHL Stanley Cup Finals is going to be really, really good. I could see that going a long distance. So, all right, let me wrap it up here for Spitball and Sports interviews. And like I said, please remember that 6 p.m. every Friday night, me and Scott Taggart will be talking about everything and anything that has to do in the world of sports. And you are welcome to please join us in the message board. And that's about it, guys. All right, everyone. Take care. See ya Friday.